Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin for your Friday edition. Tis the trading week wrap up. Hope you all had a fantastic day out there. A very happy day for me. I'll walk you through some of the conclusions of some of my trades and some other ones that I'm in a little bit of a precarious spot. But we'll deal with those as they come. Again, hope you had a great trading week. And there's a lot to talk about. You know, one of the big takeaways for me from this week was just having those guests on. So I had John Rowland on, Colin Teddards. I mean, just great content. And then, of course, you know, Scott McCormick to kick things off this week. And it was interesting seeing the different forecasts of some optimistic, some somewhat pessimistic. And I think that the important part here is that everybody has differences of opinions about where these markets are going to go. I actually I reached out to a couple other people about coming on this program, and like, well, I don't really want to come on the program, because they're more active traders. And I said, look, just talk markets with me and just give me your thoughts on what the year is going to be. And like, well, I don't want to, give my forecast for the market for the year because, I don't know, it's just too much pressure. I'm like, how's it pressure? It's literally just a guess, right? Of course, we'd like to think it's an educated guess given all the information that's facing us, but some people are still scared to come on. So I'm going to try to get a few more guests next week. I actually have an instructor meeting at Trading Academy next week on Thursday, and from that point, I'm hoping to get all of the instructors to come on here with some sort of regularity just to talk markets, to let you get more familiar with them. In one of our pushes that we're really, I would say it was the number one line item for what we want to accomplish in 2025 as a company at Trading Academy is student success. It's really the bottom line is student success. So I've always been an advocate for learning from other traders' experiences, learning from other traders' mistakes, different styles that might fit your own, or you're going to take classes at some point with Trading Academy with people you just don't click with, you just don't like. I'm sure there's some of you who watch this program because you don't like me and you're like, God, I hate this guy, but you got to keep watching, right? And others of you really like me as a teacher and as a person. So I think one of the things you should do if you are a Trading Academy graduate, and I know that we've got a couple of people here that are going to come in late because they're actually in a Trading Academy class right now teaching the Mastermind Options is Easy segment, or simple options. I'm sure we'll be here in a little bit with Lisa and Lori and all the rest. But, go and retake classes with different people. Learn from different perspectives. The key with what we do at Trading Academy is there's that foundational piece of content. And as you sit there in the physical classrooms or online classes, you have core content. There's slides and materials that the instructor is supposed to go over, but we all add a little flair to it. Our own little personal stories, our experiences help drive home those concepts on the charts and sprinkle our own teaching styles. I'm actually I'm working on getting a trader. We'll see how it goes. I've got a good friend of mine who is a phenomenal trader, and he just trades intraday. He's only a day trader. He wants nothing else to do outside of regular market hours. He has a very unique style. I'm trying to get him to A, come on this program, but B, create a focus class. I'd love to have a guy who that's all he does is big volume, short-term, intraday trading. Like literally trades for him are 5-10 minutes and he's done for the day. And I think that's a fascinating style. Is that for everybody? Nope, definitely not. But at least it's the option for people to learn from somebody like that. I'll be in Houston next week for strategic investing. Awesome. Good for you, Gary. I love that class. Honestly, the strategic investor course is here would be my perfect dream if Trading Academy could accomplish this. It would be that we would have relationships with every major company in the United States. And as soon as an employee gets hired on and starts funding their 401k, they're forced to take this strategic investor class. Because that way you would at least know what you're invested in. You'd understand the rates of return needed to achieve your financial goals. And then also you could take your investments using options and other tools to generate more income, more yield. And to me, the more you know, the better, especially when you're dealing with the large nest egg, which should be your 401ks and your IRAs. So that would be it's never going to happen, of course, because the institutions have that all locked up and they don't want you to be educated on what happens. You follow me since PTR. Been a long time, good to it. Thank you very much. You still follow me. I love it. Forced or encouraged. Yeah, I think that I think that everyone should be encouraged to do it, right? You can't make everybody understand their investments and want to take control of it. I had a conversation over last weekend with some friends about this, and most of them were like, I don't care. I just put money in every month. I'm like, well, then you're going to get what you get. You kind of get what you deserve, but ignoring what you're invested in doesn't really help you out at all. So get back in there, take more classes, and I'll do my best to showcase some instructors specifically from Trading Academy here so that you guys can go, I really like this guy's style, like what he had to say, whatever, and maybe register for their online classes or retake a class since you get free retakes, and do it that way. You would then realize your choices suck at a 401k, but could make the most of it. Correct, Big Gab. And at least you could look at it and go, what am I invested in? Why do I need to be invested in 8 mutual funds when they all have pretty much the same thing, right? Or I'll just go one equity fund, maybe one bond fund, or learn when to go to money market funds and go to cash and generate some interest. So yeah, 401ks generally aren't that great. However, there is the redundancy of, well, you have a system setups in many companies where if you go to your HR department, you can self-direct, but you have to ask for it. It's not like they publicly disclose that you can self-direct your 401ks. It's more of a personal thing, and it took me a long time to get the Trading Academy 401k to self-direct. You really have to push for it. But yes, once you self-direct it, you can actually go around the mutual funds. Then you can get into ETFs and also options and other instruments, and you open up a completely new world of investment vehicles to you. It's the match that counts. Absolutely, Gary. I mean, if you have somebody who is not taking advantage of a match in a 401k, I give you permission to give them a gentle slap in the face this weekend. Like, come on, man. If you got a match, someone's paying you $1 for every dollar you put in, at least up front, that's 100% rate of return on all your money to start. That's a nice head start. Of course, you certainly want to know what you're putting it into because the fees will eat away in a 401k, but still, matching is a phenomenal piece. Let's see, what else do I got here? Oh, thank you, Tim. Haven't learned a damn thing. Not only has Tim been following and watching now, good to see you, Tim. I'm curious to see what your new endeavors are, my friend. Yeah, Tim was actually part of our video production team back in the day. Very talented visual artist and a good musician as well. If you like, heavy metal music and yelling and screaming guitar, Tim's the man. Tim's the man. Maybe I'll get you to do the theme song for this show, Tim. Just give me a... Arr! All right, let's go to a trading week wrap-up just so I can kind of dive into some of the topics and move into what is the big stuff for the week. Obviously, I could break down each one of my guests and their comments, and maybe I'll do that next week. But I'll start with the TikTok ban. So as the deadline approaches, you guys saw the Supreme Court upheld, which means that TikTok, as of Sunday, should be banned in the United States, and it'll be removed from Apple Store and all the different media, all the different outlets where you can download the app. To me, this is just straight up bullying. I mean, it's pretty funny how it's like, oh, well, TikTok can stay in the U.S., but you got to sell it to an American company. So, I brought this up the other day. At what point does this become, well, China says, well, we're going to ban Facebook, but Facebook, if you sell it to a Chinese company, then you can be over here in China. I mean, essentially the same thing. Oh, it's proprietary. You're spying on us. You got all this information. Yeah, well, that's the way the markets go. So, I think what will happen here is, and I mentioned this the other day, I think that what will happen is Trump is going to petition to get Congress to repeal that, law, and all of a sudden TikTok will be back. So it's going to be interesting over the next few days, but there is a lot of chatter out there about different companies. So we'll go over here and look. Obviously, one of the big talks is that Meta could potentially be a big beneficiary of a TikTok ban. Of course, Meta owns Instagram as well. So a lot of people believing that Facebook, Meta, Instagram are going to surge with usage after TikTok gets their ban. And I think that's a very logical assumption. The other one in here is kind of a strange one, and it's a belief that Mr. Musk is going to come to save the day. There is a rumor going around that Musk is probably the most logical person to buy TikTok. Now, I'll tell you what, would he do it? I think if Elon Musk got a fire sale kind of deal, he might do it. Ultimately, it would just tie right into his brand X. So you've got Twitter, which is your social media chat news. You got TikTok, which is sharing a bunch of videos. I'd merge those two together and just have one giant company. But that's under X, which is privately held. It's not publicly traded. Tesla shares today had a little bit of a pop because people felt that this would be a Tesla acquisition, and I don't see it being a Tesla acquisition. If Elon Musk does buy it, he might be using Tesla shares as collateral, as he did for X, but I don't know. I don't think that, X talk, right, John? I don't think that this is going to have anything to do with Tesla, and you saw it was up 3.06% today for Tesla. I think that this is completely outside the realms of what what Tesla wants to do, but it does certainly fall right in the hands of X. And I think Tom Barr, who's no longer with us, he was talking, as soon as X went private, he says, wait till they go public. And I totally agree. I think what will happen here is X at some point will do an IPO once it gets a couple other pieces. So right now, X is now, at least from my perspective, I don't know if you guys would agree with it. Would you agree with this or not? That X, Twitter, seems to be the preferred news source for most people nowadays, as opposed to going to CNN or Fox or these different somewhat biased media outlets. And, and if you're on one side, you're to the left, well, you'd go to this news channel. You're on the right, you would go to this news channel. It seems like X is a better way to go. At least for me anyway. I don't like watching the news. I just look for the stuff I want to find on X. So X has the news side locked in. Ultimately, what you're going to get is a payment system. You're going to get a X dollar, or X will integrate with someone else and now have a currency system. So now you can send money back and forth to all the influencers, the media outlets. Then you add in, the video side. Now, they already have video on X. There's already video. You can do broadcasting there. It's just not big time. If I'm Elon Musk, I'll tell you what, I would save myself several $billion, and instead of buying TikTok, I would take a couple billion and I'd hire a whole bunch of developers and say, make X shorts or X video or X whatever you want to call it, compete with TikTok, take all of that market share and welcome them right in. And I think that would probably be a better way to go. John says an X token. My guess is it won't be a token. Now, there's two different sides to this. Number one would be a token, and I'm hoping that everybody here understands the difference between a token and a coin. An X token would mean that token relies on another network. So the question now becomes, what network do they use? Do you use Solana? Do you use Ethereum? Do you use Avalanche? Do you use Cardano? Do you use Algorand? Which network do I use? Or what I think could happen is X creates their own blockchain and uses their own coin and allows people to build on that ecosystem. Remember, Ethereum is open source. So you could take Ethereum, modify it to make it faster, more efficient, because it's not fast or efficient right now. Maybe mimic something like Solana, launch your own blockchain, and now all your products and services for X now reside on that one, whether that's streaming video, whether it's, the influencer side of things, payment networks can all be done with an X coin. A coin means it has its own blockchain. So I think that's a very real possibility. I'm looking at Elon Musk as creating his own blockchain. That would be the smartest thing he could do, is create a closed loop blockchain for the X ecosystem. Now you've got XAI, so you can have AI agents that people could pay for with that X coin. Really does open up to a lot of potential here if he has his own blockchain. Now could he piggyback and jump on something else? Of course, but then you remove a lot of control, right? As soon as you have a token, you're reliant on whatever that other blockchain does. So for example, if X was to issue an X token on, let's say, Ethereum, he's now beholden to Ethereum's constraints, whether that's a slow system, an expensive system, whatever. Ethereum kind of dictates the cost of doing business. Where if you go to Solana, it's the same thing. He could put a token on top of Solana, which is much cheaper and faster, but he's still beholden to the Solana ecosystem. So yeah, very interesting question there posed, because it could certainly develop into Elon Musk creating his own blockchain. And let's be honest, when you have more money than God, he could very easily bring on developers to make a TikTok competitor that incorporates right into his platform, as well as a blockchain. You simply hire one, or you buy a blockchain already semi-established and bring in developers. I mean, he has the money to do it all. I kind of wish that he would. Elon should have been the man of the year. Who was the man of the year, Margaret? I didn't even look. Yeah, he's definitely the richest man in the world. Is Elon Musk the most powerful man in the world? No. That's a great question, Margaret. I don't know who was the man of the year, but you guys type in the chat before I give you my answer. Who do you think is the most powerful man in the world at this moment, as of today, right? And let's forget about the inauguration next week. We'll talk about that in a minute. But who do you think is the most powerful man in the world? Or woman, powerful individual. Let's keep our pronouns out of this, right? Who is the most powerful individual in the world? And it's a very tough one to say specifically that this person is the most powerful for a variety of reasons. I see a couple people saying Trump is the most powerful. Well, it seems to be a clean. Oh, Trump was the man of the year. Wow, really? Okay. It was you, Mun. You were the man. No, I wish. I wish, because if I was the man of the year, it means I've done colossal. I would think that it means I've done colossal good for society, but we're not there yet. So I've asked kind of two questions here at the same time, so I'm not really sure which one it was, but it seems like Trump won Time Magazine Man of the Year. Thank you for that clarity. Now give me, who do you think's the most powerful? So I have a feeling some are going to say Trump as well. Elon Musk, I would argue, is got to be in the top 5 because he has the most money out of anybody. And it's not just about money. He also has political sway. He's connected on the high hill because of all of his businesses, which gives him a tremendous amount of power. But that influences things on, I would say, on an individual basis. He's not influencing economies. He's not influencing an entire country. Although the EU has apparently invited him over to speak about free speech and everything. So very interesting. Then you have Z. And I would argue he's got one of the largest countries in the world under his control. And certainly when you have that much power, that certainly is a great amount of power. But does his policies modify how the world functions? I would contend that at this point in time, and their top 5 would be Z, Elon Musk, as of today, not Trump, as of next week, Trump, because now you officially are president and now you have just phenomenal power. And I would say Jerome Powell, for now, has to be considered one of the most powerful people in the world because of his control over interest rates. Now, it's not him, it's a committee, but when you look at what the dog that wags the tail globally, it's our economy. And the Fed is kind of the one that drives that economy through its interest rate policy. So I would argue that Jerome Powell, even though most people don't even know who Jerome Powell is probably one of the most powerful people in the world. Those of us who trade understand the ramifications where he makes one change to policy and it can have a ripple effect to the economies and cause markets to crash, could cause them to boom. So in my mind, that's power when your one decision can have a colossal ramifications for not only your economy, but other economies as well that looked at you. So I guess I still have one more opening there on my top 5. But it was Z, Elon Musk, Jerome Powell, I will say as of Monday, Trump, and then who else? Who else would be a super policy, I don't know. I have to think more about that one. He's the purple tie, J. Powell. All right. The Rothschild family. I guess you could argue, Joe, that they are kind of behind the scenes pulling the strings, but they're not very public. There you go, Liz. Yeah, I got to give Liz that one. Putin, for sure. For sure. He has a lot of power. Now, it's interesting because if Russia changes policy, it doesn't feel like it impacts that much of the world. But, in Batman, everyone loves Batman, but the reality is Batman doesn't exist if there's not a villain. And the world loves to paint Putin as a villain. Now, I'm not going to say he is or isn't, but certainly the media and the way the United States government views it, ever since I was a kid, it's always been Russia is evil. Russia is bad. I'll tell you what, I've met a lot of Russians. They're great people, really good people. So until I actually get a chance to live in Russia for a good period of time, I don't know if I could ever make the statement that they are evil as a blanket statement. It's like saying all Americans are stupid. Well, that's not true. There's some extremely intelligent Americans. There are definitely a few stupid ones out there. All right, let's move on from that discussion. Anyway, we could go on and on about this one. I loved it. Elon Musk certainly could come save the day, but I don't think so. Let's go look at a trade that was made. I told you about my expiration of my trade. I was talking to John O'Donnell about this one as well. We talked about MicroStrategy, MSTR. Now, with today's move up in Bitcoin, which was fantastic, we love to see that nice Bitcoin move up today. I'll show you here in just a second what Bitcoin did. It was up about 4.43%, breaking 105 again today. But that, of course, vaulted MicroStrategy, which right now is trading at 396. So I was very happy with this because, as I told you, I'm long MicroStrategy, but I had sold calls against my position at 370, and they expired today. I've been doing those weekly. I mean, the weekly premium is literally 3 to 6% for that I've been getting for my weekly options. So totally fine with that. Love it. My shares were taken away today, so I'm no longer, unless they don't exercise, which I don't think that will happen. They're going to automatically exercise. But my MicroStrategy shares are taken away. And the reason I'm very happy they're taken away, as I mentioned yesterday and day before, there is a very big vote, of course, on Tuesday morning, which will be right as the markets open up. Remember, markets are closed on Monday for Martin Luther King Day, and we'll also have the inauguration of the president, which I will talk about here in just a second. So I'm happy that that's gone because I don't know what's going to happen on Tuesday's announcement. I will submit my vote. I will vote in favor of going from 330 million to 10.3 billion. However, I don't know how that's going to impact it. My gut would tell me it's going to have a pretty negative impact on the price of MicroStrategy. So I'm just going to stay out of it probably for the next few days, probably as we get into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'll look at it near the tail end of last week and maybe start selling some weeklies again. But this has me pretty nervous, I must say. Becker says, I sold calls at 372, expired today, but I rolled out. Well, you're taking that risk, bud. You're taking that risk. And again, I have no idea. I could speculate on what this is going to do if that vote passes. In the long run, I think it's fantastic for Bitcoin. And this is the conversation I had with John O'Donnell, who I will hopefully, I'm going to try to get him to come on next week. Actually, no, I'm sorry, not trying to. John O'Donnell will be on Wednesday's show next week. I already locked him down. So John's going to be on Wednesday. We'll talk a little bit about his MicroStrategy thoughts. And, he has gone from a gold bug. He was all about gold. And now he understands how Bitcoin mathematically is better than gold. So John is certainly still holding gold, but he is an orange pillar. He now believes that Bitcoin is a phenomenal instrument for investment growth over time. So he holds a lot of Bitcoin and he holds MicroStrategy. And his attitude is, I don't care what happens to MicroStrategy over the next couple weeks. If it has a big decline, I'll dollar cost average and buy some more in because I'm holding it for the long haul, which I think is a very interesting approach. You just got to be able to ride out a lot of volatility with this MicroStrategy. So keep your eyes on that one. Again, there's nothing you can do about it now. I guess you could, because the vote is going to be at 10 a.m. Eastern time, which would be, 7 o'clock Pacific time. So 30 minutes in the trading day is when the vote comes out, but I'm pretty sure the results will be pretty clear by that point when we get there. And this is just a tremendous amount of volatility. All right, what did you guys say in here? Mara, yes, and the door slams. But there you go. Adios, Gensler. Yes. Adios, bud. See you later. I have some other graphics here which I want to show you, but we'll go into Monday. But let me real quickly just kind of run through what our week looks like. This was an interesting week for, I'll call it an about face week. When I say an about face week, it's because we had, I'll start with the indexes. I'm not going to go in order here, but if you look at like the S&P and the NASDAQ, last week was predominantly down. We had a pretty ugly down week. This week, all of a sudden, we pretty much regained all of our losses for last week, looking really good. Now, the part here that I find interesting, specifically with the NASDAQ, is notice how that nice little down channel that I have is broken, at least that line. Now, this does not mean that this short-term downtrend is completely over, but it's saying that it at least has more strength than what the previous downtrend has been displaying. So great news for anybody here who's bullish. I actually thought we'd see a little bit more down move today, but nope, we rallied up aggressively. Fine, I'll take it. So that looks really good. And basically giving us a 3% week. If you go from where we opened up on Monday morning to where we closed today, NASDAQ was up 2.70% for the week. Love it. We'll take that one. S&P, a similar situation, which is even more of a gain, 2.96%. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was earlier on as I was analyzing. 2.8% up for the week for the S&P. And same story. It did break this somewhat downtrend line right here. It also erased all the losses from last week. So a total about face. Still a lower high. Totally correct, Naum. Yes. And this is where, everything can kind of be quantified. It doesn't have to be binary as the trend's over or the trend's not over, right? It's not binary like that. There's gradients to it. So yes, you're absolutely right. If we look at this, it still is a series of lower highs. And technically, it hasn't broken this high from back here, which was on January 6th, right? We have not broken that high yet. However, if I put my line, let's go right through the tips, just the tips, you can see that technically has been broken. But we know what technicians will do is they will now move that line to here and say, okay, well, that's our line. It still is trending down. So I'm feeling a little more positive because it showed some strength at the tail end of this week. But you're right, now it is still in a downtrend. S&P does look better than the NASDAQ. I think the NASDAQ has got a steeper decline here. I believe personally a lot of the reason that you're seeing the NASDAQ show this big strength today is just the tech side of things. You had Tesla, which you talked about. Let me scroll down here to the bottom and show you the Magnificent Seven. I mean, our Magnificent Seven from weakest to strongest. Here is Meta. It was only up 0.25% today. Had a real big gap up and then gave back a lot of it. I think a lot of people were jumping the gun here thinking that Meta would get a big windfall from the TikTok decision. Apple was up 0.75%. That thing's been pretty ugly, but notice right where it fell into. That yellow box I've had there for a few days now. I had that drawn back here on the 10th of January. We tiptoed into it yesterday, now bouncing out of it. So that's a potential buy point for Apple, which you guys know I cannot trade. Microsoft, great uptrend, at least for the past 4 days for this week for Microsoft. That looks great. They're up 1% today. Google, which has really done nothing. Google is really just stuck in this sideways range, which is interesting for anybody here who's a spread trader. This could present an opportunity for you. Now getting to the top of the heap here, Amazon up 2.39% on the day, but really not much happened. You notice this is what's called a hanging man. It's after a rally up, had a long bottoming tail, and closed right about where it's open. According to Steve Nissen, this candle represents a reversal. In my mind, it looks like continuation. So I don't know why Steve Nissen calls this a reversal pattern. I think it's a continuation. Number 2 on our Magnificent 7, so now the Magnificent 2, Tesla, 3.06% move to the upside today, although what pattern is that one there? Oh, I do like this one. For this pattern right here, this is a shooting star. Let me actually do snap mode here. But a shooting star is a candle that has a long topping tail above it, small body near the bottom of the range, which you guys can see there. I hope you can see that. Let me zoom in here. You can see that long topping tail closes near the bottom half of the range, but also after a nice rally up in price. So over the past 5 days or so, if you go from the bottom here on Friday of last week to the peak, Tesla rallied 16% in a week, and now all of a sudden starts its pullback. So this would be one that would be on my radar for Tuesday as a potential short opportunity if we open up above 419.75 and then start to break down below this one. So keep your eye on Tesla. I think that would be an interesting play for Monday. And then finally, NVIDIA. I don't know if you guys saw Colin Teddar's video on NVIDIA. He is just bullish on NVIDIA. Fine, great. It'll help out some of my other positions that I have that rely on NVIDIA. But NVIDIA up 3.1%. Out of all of them, I hate to say it, it kind of looks the worst. It really has not done much, and it's been slowly making, kind of drifting down. Not really in a clear trend either, just kind of chopping down lower and lower and lower. Jay Patel says, Merlin, what's your story behind your aversion to Apple? How much time do I got? We got plenty of time. So here's the story. Essentially, what turned my trading around, and I've mentioned this many, many times for you guys, for all of you, you should be doing this every year. And that is do as deep of a dive into your trading as possible and be extremely critical. Don't candy coat it and overlook things you don't want to address. Look the bad stuff in the face and stare at it and go, this is costing me money. So what happened was I had done some analysis at the year end. This, I think, was 1999. I think I put that on my list. I think in 2000 was for the change. So in 99 or 2000, somewhere in there, I had been trading Apple a lot. And I looked up my trade sheets. And the software platform that we were using at the time, I think was called On-Site Trading, or is it Cyber Trader? I can't remember at the time. You could run reports on your trades for the year or whatever time period you want. So I took the whole year, said run a report, and it would break down which ones I made the most money with and which ones I lost the most money with. And by a large margin, Apple was my Achilles heel. Not only did I make a lot of trades in it, but I was losing on like 90% of the trades I took on Apple, and I could not figure out why. So ultimately, I realized that that's what's costing me money. I just got rid of it. And so what I did is I told myself that as part of my discipline, I put it on page 3 of my trading plan. So it's still there on page 3. It's an Apple logo in the upper right-hand corner with a red circle around it and a line through it. And it's written, says, I can never trade Apple again. And that was written, I think, early 2020, or sorry, 2000, excuse me. So for 24 years, I haven't touched Apple. And it's not that I can't trade Apple today. I'm a much better trader today than I was back in the year 2000. I mean, superior to what I was back then. But when we set rules for ourselves and establish your discipline, it's critical that you never break those rules, right? You never break those rules unless something has changed fundamentally. I use that as a kind of an anchor point for my change as a trader, my evolution as a trader. And because I knew I was not making money with that Apple, I just cut it out altogether. I could look at it, but I would never trade Apple again. And like I say, I could do it today if I wanted to, but why bother? I've got thousands of other things to trade. Thousands, tens of thousands of things I could trade. So why do I care? Why do I care about Apple? I don't. So there you go, Jay. That's my story about Apple. Are you still planning on selling all your Bitcoin this year? I am, GS. The plan so far is to sell everything this year. Now, that could change. I'm going into it with a plan. I've got everything kind of lined up and the idea of how I'm going to execute this. But right now, I'm not concerned at all about selling right now. You know, if you look at some of the data and I guess information about what's happening in crypto, I mean, let me put it in perspective. You have a new Secretary of the Treasury. I already talked about this repeatedly. A new Secretary of the Treasury. You have a brand new Chairman of the SEC. You've got a House of Representatives and a Senate, all of which are pro-crypto. And the House and Senate's important because that's Republican. And you have a President Trump and J.D. Vance are both pro-crypto and Republican. So they can be pushing through rules very quickly. Not only that, but you also have a Crypto Advisory Council that's made up of 3 senators, all Republicans, of course, including Tom Emmer. You've got Michael Saylor, Brad Garlinghouse, Stuart Aldertoy, Chris Mazeroski, Charles Hoskinson are all parts of this Crypto Advisory Council. So I mentioned this in my crypto programs, guys. It's shaping up to be one of the most bullish years for crypto that I think we've ever seen, from an adoption perspective, from a utilization perspective, from a regulatory perspective. And keep your eyes peeled for this one. I think even right here, I had it. Here's Cynthia Loomis, right? She's a senator from Wyoming. I mean, she's lobbying every day and getting as many colleagues on her Republican side and Democrat to set up a strategic Bitcoin reserve. There is a lot of talk about this. And if that happens, holy cow, if that happens, man, Bitcoin is, I won't be selling this year. If that happens, I won't. If we get a strategic reserve of Bitcoin established and that becomes fact, not only will I not be selling, I'm going to buy as much as I can without putting myself at financial risk, right? I certainly don't want to put myself in a situation where I've YOLO'd in with every single thing I have. I'm not going to do that. Up over 13% year to date. Listen, I am holding on and not hedged. Are you talking about your Apple, Big Eb, or your Bitcoin? Did I miss what that topic was about? Where did Big Eb jump in there? We talking about Bitcoin, I think. What would be the biggest 3 adoption stories? Just heard from a friend that a lot of TikTok engineers are going to Meta. I heard that as well. I've heard that as well. Man, it's going to be a crazy first day, first row of billionaires at this inauguration. Yes, it is going to be a wild inauguration. And I've got my fingers crossed that nothing chaotic happens. You know, there's already been 2 attempts on Trump. So let's hope that Secret Service does their job on Inauguration Day. Let me see. Oh, you're talking about ISRG. Okay. Yeah, ISRG also has earnings coming up here soon. I didn't see the ISRG question. Yeah, got it. I got it. I was just looking at that one again today. Their earnings are coming up next week, I believe. Are they next Thursday? I think their Thursday is their earnings next week. We can look at that here in just a sec. So to Margaret's point, what would be the 3 biggest adoption stories? Number 1 biggest factor for me would be strategic Bitcoin reserve. Right away, that is going to create a monumental move up in Bitcoin. I mean, if they do establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve, which if we saw it yesterday when I did I think I did it with you guys where I had ChatGPT read did I do that with you guys yesterday? I may have done it with my crypto program class, but I took the actual bill from Cynthia Loomis, put it in ChatGPT and said, summarize this for dummies. And essentially they're saying they're going to buy 1 million Bitcoin over the next 5 years and not sell for 30 years. Okay, then Bitcoin's going to be at 500,000 by December. At least 500,000 by December, depending on how quickly they buy. Now, here's the thing. If you have, from an adoption perspective, the government says, not only is Bitcoin okay, but we're going to create a strategic reserve, that will create adoption not only here in the US, but globally. Other central banks will start to buy it. So we've got the reserve. Number two is the biggest adoption story will be the chairman of the SEC. If they did their job over the last 4 years, which Gensler clearly was told not to do his job. I don't think Gensler's that stupid. Gensler was told not to make any rules or clarity. Now, because of Trump and J.D. Vance and the senators, they're going to say, give us clarity, do it by this date, tell us what's a security, what's not. The moment we get clarity on that list of 2.4 million cryptos, what's a security, what's not, what's a scam, it can just be thrown away, then that ushers in adoption on two fronts. Number one, that would be the business holding perspective, meaning now businesses could hold Bitcoin and other digital assets without fear of ramifications from government and the tax authorities. It also opens up the door to businesses willing to accept cryptocurrency as payment for services because there's no longer retribution from the IRS or from the federal government. So to me, those three things right there, monumentally large. It'd be the strategic reserve, that creates clarity from the SEC with laws, and then that fosters in business adoption. Those are my big three things. So regulatory, strategic reserve, and from then, Bob's your uncle. And I think what you'll start to see more often is now countries will accept Bitcoin for payment. And it's going to start with Bitcoin and maybe move to other ones. What you're also going to get this year, is new ETFs for crypto. So my guess is right now you have pretty much an Ethereum trust with Grayscale. Not really an ETF, it's a trust. You have Bitcoin ETFs. You're going to have Ethereum ETFs. My guess is the next one will be Ripple. And then you're also going to have Solana. And in a perfect world, here's what you guys would all be pushing for, I would believe, especially for you newbies. There will be an ETF that's going to be like the top 10 crypto holdings. And it will probably be a weighted thing where, maybe it's just even distribution. But if it's the top 10 holdings of crypto, so now you can hold those top 10 in one share of this ETF. That will probably hit here in the next, my guess is 6 months. I think a lot of this is going to get fast-tracked. Business adoption would do it for you. Yeah. Here's the thing, Margaret, though, and others, like if it starts to become adopted like this, do you really want to spend your Bitcoin? That's the trick question. Like, I don't know if I want to. Liz says, Margaret, not sure who matters, who's the first to adopt it. Yes, I agree. There's adoption, and then there's mass scale adoption. The most important part is the government makes it not a crime. Because at this point, the government could come down. Let's say that, pick a company. Let's say that Apple decides to buy some XRP and holds, $5 billion worth of XRP on their balance sheets. The government still hasn't classified whether that's an unregistered security or not. Therefore, Apple could get in trouble for that. So as soon as it says a stamp, yep, that's safe for this, then you'll start to see people use it. I mentioned the example of cannabis yesterday. Banks cannot accept deposits from a cannabis dispensary. Even though it's legitimate money, they sold the product, they're going to pay taxes on it, the bank can't hold that if it's a federally chartered bank because it's illegal federally. So as soon as the federal government opens it up, you're going to see a lot of celebration going on in this room. Is there a crypto index? Yes, there are a few of them, but there is no industry standard. CoinDesk has a couple of them. CoinDesk, you see if I can bring it up for you. So there were a couple that CoinDesk had done. They call it the market index. Let me bring it up here for you real quick, which is this CMI. But this is like the dollar index. Let me make it large for you. And for the podcasters, I'll read it to you. It's basically an index that's weighted, kind of like that ETF I was talking about, where it's going to have the top holdings. Well, look at what it is. It's 65% Bitcoin, 13% Ethereum, 6% Ripple, 3% Solana, 2% Dogecoin, and 10% others. I mean, that's not really that diversified, right? Even though I think what it's doing is it's basing off of market dominance. And to see market dominance, I can go here. And I have it in my watch list here. So hold on. BTC.D shows you the dominance of Bitcoin. So right now, if you are doing it by industry weighting, then Bitcoin should be 57% of that index, right? Because it's 57% of the total market cap of crypto right now is Bitcoin. So CoinDesk does have one of the more looked at ones, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan because it's so skewed towards Bitcoin. It's kind of like looking at the dollar index, right? When we look at the Dixie on this program, go here at the DXY, which is one of my favorite indexes. This is over half is the euro. And there's 4 other currencies in there. I think it's 5 currencies total. It's a bias index that is pretty much the inverse of the euro US dollar. That's pretty much it. So there are definitely several other crypto indexes, Margaret, but none of them have become like that S&P index. And I'll tell you what, if I'm Standard & Poor's right now, I would be pushing to have, here's the S&P crypto 10 index, crypto 30 index, crypto 100 index, right? Because you got like the NASDAQ 100. Just create the crypto 10 and track that index and become the one that everyone wants to use right now. And I don't know why no one has done that. Is there any chatter about banks doing business with marijuana companies? Not yet. There are banks that aren't federally chartered, but that's of course a risk because then you don't afford government protection on those accounts. So I wouldn't mess with those types of firms anyway. There may be some banks that accept those deposits, but I believe they're outside of the federal system. What I hope happens, fingers crossed, is at some point in the next few years we see a legalization of cannabis federally. I know that there's some people here that have strong opinions about it. That's this horrible narcotic. Look, this isn't opium. This isn't, Oxycontin. This isn't cocaine or heroin. This is a plant. It's a simple plant with proven medicinal benefits, and we're making it a crime. There's a lot of people in jail today that I think should just be let out because of cannabis. You got caught with a bag of weed, big deal. And I think once we wisen up and remove that federally, we take a lot of dollars used to fight that stupid crime and focus on other things. Like, let's get fentanyl out of the way. Let's get fentanyl banned and real crime prosecution for that, as opposed to someone with a bag of weed or smoking a joint on the street. That no big deal. Once that happens, then I think you're going to see a flood into those banks. Obviously, banks want the deposits, right? If you're a bank and someone comes to you with $100,000 in cash, hey, I want to deposit this, you'd love to say yes because that's assets under management. Absolutely. All right, cool. I'm rambling on here. Let me go to the important topics for Monday, and then I'll go to whatever questions you guys have as we wrap up here. Monday is going to be an interesting day. So let's go to the most important thing that's happening on Monday, in my opinion, and that is MLK Day. There's a lot of people that believe that MLK's fight was just for one specific group, and I disagree with that. I think Martin Luther King was really about humanity, and that everybody needs to get a chance, regardless of who you are, where you are, what you believe. As long as you treat people with respect, we should all be treated with respect and have the same opportunities afforded to us, based off our efforts and just giving it all we got and treating people well. So I'm obviously I wasn't around with MLK, but I think he's an icon for humanity and for doing the right thing. So Monday is kind of an interesting day. I always listen to the 2 big speeches, the I Have a Dream and the Mountaintop speech. I actually prefer the Mountaintop speech, but I listen to those every year because I think deep down, I don't know, it reminds us what's important and that humanity is a fragile thing. And unfortunately, you have so many different aspects of racism and discrimination that really don't need to be there. I mean, look, let's just live together as a society and do good. I think that's much better way to go. So Monday, that's the important part. I know some of you are like, the inauguration. No, that's a distant second, folks. Distant second. This is humanity as a whole with MLK. I think he's a great role model and face for the movement. Now, of course, we do know that it is Inauguration Day, and that will be interesting. I will not be doing a show Monday. I am supposed to work, but I think I'm going to take time off, and I'm just going to sit there with a bag of popcorn, and I'm going to watch the inauguration. I usually don't like the pageantry. I don't like all that stuff. Thomasina, have a great weekend. Thank you for joining us as usual. I hope you do something fun this weekend. But I'll be watching it. I'm curious to see how it goes, how it transpires. But ultimately, it's just one day. Now, I did see some comments in here. What's going to happen day one? Who knows? And that's why I think next week you got to be really careful. The first 100 days typically are some really big knee-jerk reactions. And I think that day one, I'd like to see him hold true with things he said he's going to do day one, like free Ross Ulbricht, right? Do that one. He mentioned he's going to free a lot of these January 6 people. All right. It depends on what they did. If you attacked a police officer or did anything like you were destroying the building, maybe you need to stay there a little bit longer and think about what you did. But, there's a lot of stuff he's going to do that is much more impactful than like freeing an individual from prison. And who knows what exactly that's going to be. I, for one, really hope he does what he said about Bitcoin with the Treasury Department. That'd be fantastic. But more importantly for me, it's not what he is going to do. It's all these people behind him now. All this new army that we kind of have to figure out what their stance is. I watched some of the congressional testimony as these guys are being sworn in and kind of interviewed, if you will, for the roles. Man, it's tough. There's some people have some really strong opinions about some of the people he has appointed. So we'll have to see how those chips start to line up. What I would be careful with is volatility over the next couple of weeks. Now, I expect there to be, especially next week, I expect to see a tremendous amount of volatility on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and probably even into Friday as everyone's just kind of going, what do we do? Where's it going to go? So I will probably scale back my trades. I'm going to have some dry powder, if you will. I'll be ready to make some trades, but I'm certainly not going to be taking anything big going into next week just because of the risk factor. And I know what some of you are thinking. Many of you are thinking, well, there's opportunity there, Merlin. You could make a ton of money. I'd rather not take the risk of getting smoked and losing a ton of money. So I will be taking it pretty easy next week, but I'll let you know on trades that I make going into it. But it's going to be pretty darn exciting. Now, one of the other things that let me actually get to these two questions. I have 12 minutes left. Michael G., great question you sent in. He says, how do you trade in choppy volatile markets versus heavy bull markets or heavy bear markets, I guess? What was Trump's episode 1 like for you? What lessons were learned during those years that may be of benefit now? Okay. Exactly, John. Trail that stop. So one thing that Jose, long time no see. Wow. Good to see you, my friend. I'll get to your question in just a second. So as far as what I did under Trump, I really didn't do anything different when Trump first came to office. What I started to do as his administration went on is I added him and followed him on Twitter. I'm usually not a fan. I think he badmouths a lot of people and talks a lot of trash, which I'm not a big fan of. However, I started trading a lot with Trump based off what he said he's going to do. So, for example, if Friday morning he's like, China's just really bad, we're going to tariff China 30%, I don't like China, they really need to step up here and carry their weight. Well, then I knew right away that the equity markets are probably going to sell off on Friday and probably into Monday or Tuesday. And then, of course, later on the next week, he'd be like, China's really done remarkable things. They're really nice. We're really working with the president there in China. It's going to be good. It's going to be huge. No one knows China like I do. And then all of a sudden, it would start to rally. So I would kind of hang on what Trump would say. And that caused short-term rallies that would last a couple of days. And to me, I hate to say it, but you got to follow Trump. You got to follow his Twitter feed. And if he starts talking good about the markets, it instantly has a reaction. Like, I want to set an alert that anytime he posts something to instantly show up on my phone so I can be the first to respond. If he says, hey, we're looking at working with Tesla to build superhighway tunnels, I'm just going to click the buy button on Tesla because it's going to have an impact that drives those markets up. And I'd only hold it for a couple of days, but set trailing stops. It's called the poop tweet. Yeah. So that's really, Michael, that's pretty much it. I really just knew that there was a shock and awe factor with Trump. Like I mentioned before, when he did his TV shows, it was every commercial break he went into, it was say something so dramatic that the audience couldn't leave. They're not going to switch channels. And then when you come back from break, you calm that situation. It was like nothing ever happened. That's what happens with Trump. That's happened all the 4 years of his policy was shock factor, calm it down. Shock factor, calm it down all the time. So I'm looking forward to it because it means more shorter term swing trades for me. I'm still going to continue doing what I do, but I'll have a separate account. I'm going to try, maybe I'll do it this year. I'll earmark a Trump account. And in that account, I'm just going to do based off Trump's posts. I hated him during that TV show. Yeah, I completely arrogant jerk, right? Not my fan. Not a fan. So Michael, that's one. And then I see here, Jeff P says, fear-mongering claims liquidity is evaporating, potentially affecting the market. What's your opinion? I say hogwash. Show me where you think liquidity is evaporating. It's not. All right, it's not evaporating. Look, we can look at something simple like SPY, and I'll add volume onto the bottom of the chart there. Is liquidity lower than it was back here in 2020? Yes. Is this low enough that it causes any problems? I mean, it's trading 58 million shares a day. No, I think that's pretty much normal. Look at Apple. Is it lower than it was back in 2020? So as of today, we had 68 million shares traded today. I'll go back here into same. So no, I don't think that there's an issue here with liquidity evaporating. Is it lowering down? Maybe a little, but nothing really bad. What do they say? Well, thanks for getting me going. Oh, no problem. You're shopping at Costco? Oh, man. Glutton for punishment. I've heard of people watching me in some weird places, but watching as a shopping at Costco. By the way, there's a couple really good things. The rotisserie chicken. Don't forget to pick up the rotisserie chicken there, Lisa. You can't beat that deal. $4.99 for rotisserie chicken that's look like a small turkey. Whereas you go to a local grocery store, it's $8.99 for one that looks like a game hen. Tiny little thing. Anyway. All right. What did I have last? So we're going to reach a really interesting point. Actually, not last. Let me get to Jose's question. If you're still here, Jose, here's my question. He said, do you think XRP has now, for being fully adopted for cross-border payments now with the pro-crypto administration coming, it's been running lately? So, no, I don't think that Ripple will be the one. There will be multiple. So if you want to do cross-border payments, you have to be compliant with something called ISO 20022. Right? That's the protocol that allows them to do cross-border payments. That's Algorand, Cardano, Quant, Hedera Hashgraph, IOTA, Stellar Lumens, and Ripple. It's a bunch of different companies. So I don't think that Ripple has exclusivity there. The good news for you is that you have two members, Aldertoy and Garlinghouse, who is the lawyer and the CEO of Ripple, are going to be on the President's Advisory Council. So that should certainly give them some competitive edge, which is why they're pumping. I mean, it's an all-time high. It was all-time high today. Their high back in 2017 was $3.30, and today I think they breached that. I haven't looked at it here recently, but XRP, it's back to $3.27. But we hit a high yesterday of $3.40, which is an all-time high. And, I think that there's a little bit of upside left in this one. I think there's a lot of competition in that space. And if you're looking to buy into a crypto project that may be the one that does cross-border settlement and integrates with banks, I would say build a portfolio. I'd build a few different ones. I'd get myself some Cardano. I'd probably add some Ripple and Stellar Lumens, and maybe some Algorand or some, IOTA, things like that. There you go. And ultimately what I think it comes down to, and I'm a little concerned about this with regards to crypto, is this picture here. Buy the rumor, sell the news. And I think that this may be what we encounter next week. So be careful out there. I think there could be this kind of phenomenon of buy the rumor, sell the news. The market's really had a good pump going into the inauguration. It's been a really great rally so far, certainly from those November 5th lows, which is right back here. I'll map out what the market moved at the beginning. Once Trump won, it went 6.96%, and as of where we are right now on the S&P, we're still up roughly 5%. So all in all, it's been a great pump for a month and a half, 2 months. I call it 2 months. We're up 5%. That's still great. I'd be a little cautious here that you might get that buy the rumor, sell the news moment, but at this point, you still kind of got to be bullish. All right, what time is it? It's time for me to wrap up. I didn't realize it was all of a sudden 55 after. No 1 hour show today. So Monday, I will not be doing a show. It's going to be Martin Luther King Day, so I will be taking the day off. I'm hopefully going to catch up on some stuff I need to catch up on. That means that next time I see you, we will be looking at Tuesday. Tuesday will be an exciting day. We have a little bit of earnings stuff, which I'll bring up here for you so you can see what happens on Tuesday. But really, it's going to be the talk of the town will be the inauguration. What happened? What worked? What didn't work? What was said? Was there anything that came off as really noteworthy? And then After market close on Tuesday, you have Netflix. You got NFLX reporting earnings. You've also got 3M, United Airlines, Seagate Technologies, Charles Schwab, Zion Bank shares. And remember, these banks have been doing really well so far. So we'll see a lot of good earnings. Some are before market. Most are after market close. But don't forget, we have that vote for MicroStrategy. I think that is going to be one that is so volatile on Tuesday. I'm really excited to see what happens. And again, I'm out of it altogether right now. I have nothing in MicroStrategy. Of course, I still have my Bitcoin holdings. All right. That's going to do it for me, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for the support this week. I'm going to see if I get some more guests on the program next week. Again, John O'Donnell will be Wednesday, which means I have a Tuesday and a Thursday open. I'll see if I can get some guests for you guys to come and share their opinions, thoughts about where these markets may go. Until then, have a fantastic weekend. If you want me to talk about something next week or just want to message me, email me at tradermerlin@gmail.com, and I will get that all ready for you and bring it up on the show. And, of course, Oliver, we'll talk about Goldman Sachs' new CEO on Tuesday, because I'm done. No 1 hour shows. Take care, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend. Yeah, Notre Dame, Ohio State. Part of me is just cheering for Notre Dame. I feel like they're the underdog. Ohio State's this huge juggernaut, and I just kind of like the Irish. But I just want to see a good game. Take care, everybody. I'll see you on Tuesday.